Boot up the recording, just like so. Boot up the games, just like so. I saw one of those achievements as 3X's, so I guess one of these games is at a strip club. Porno. Well, chat, I hope these games are better than the ones in Trash Number 1. Down to 25. That's better. Game quality, ultra. There's no reason for us not to have it set as high as possible. Pretty sure my computer can handle it. Alright. How many games are in this? 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And 3 of them are poop killer games. Chat, I'm not looking forward to the poop killer games. RIP is an escape-style survival horror game where you'll have to perform different tasks to get an ending. It is difficult and you need to be very patient to play. This game contains 5 endings. Well, we'll do 1 playthrough. Wow. Great cutscene. Ah. Alright, hang on. So. Okay, I appreciate that. The PSX filter is a little bit better. Black and white. I like the black and white. And PS2, which is just the basic. I guess we'll leave this one on the basic. This place, it really looks like a captivity. Oh my god. Oh no, they won't let me quit. Shit. Ah. Holy shit, I have a body. How exciting. It's really quiet. Alright, chat. You guys can have 50% volume. Fuck yeah. Chat, I'm Gordon Freeman! It's stuck? Well, yeah, but what if I... No, I can't use my crowbar on this door. It's pretty lame. Oh, that's messy. Wow. My God, what a horrible smell. Also, hi, Arna. Oh my God, I'm psychic! He's John Polizei, the psychic police officer, who brings no bullets to a gunfight. I've never seen anything so horrible in my life. You know, there's somebody around here. Great. How's your day going, though, Arna? Oh my God, that's Kevin? Oh no, I was captured. Is that one of the endings? Oh. I've got no claws. Use control to cage. Do. Why are there lit candles in this air duct? Oh, he looking, chat. He looking. He waits there for quite a while. Knob is missing. Wow. Wow. Not digging this, chat. Cool. All the way back here. Nice. This guy's stupid. Da ba ba da ba ba. Da ba da ba da ba. Da ba da ba da ba 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 da ba da ba da ba da ba. Da ba da da. Da ba da da. Da ba da da. Ba ba da ba da ba ba. Tequila. Ba da ba da ba da ba ba. Ba da ba da ba da ba. Ba da ba da ba da ba ba. Ba da ba da. Ba da ba da ba. Ba da ba da ba. Ba da ba da ba. Ba da ba da ba ba ba. Tequila. Ba da ba da ba da ba ba. Ba da ba da ba da ba. Ba da ba da ba da ba ba. Ba da ba da ba da ba. Oh, whoops! I muted you. No, that's okay. Just like everyone else. Ba da ba da da. Ba da ba da ba. Ba da ba da da. Ba da ba da ba ba ba. Tequila. Ba da ba da ba da ba ba. Ba da ba da ba da ba. Ba da ba da ba da ba ba ba. Ba da ba da ba da 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 da. Wow. This guy's dumb. You must be very patient to play this game. That's what they told us, remember, chat? I don't think it's a matter of patience. I think it's a matter of this game sucks. Also, I love how he can look right at me and not actually see me. I shouldn't be too harsh because they probably made this game in like a week, but like still. This shit is so ass. Brilliant. Oh yeah, there's your problem, buddy. You got grass clipping in there from your ventilation shaft outside, and you got lit candles in here. It's not that you got asthma, buddy. Ah. Alright, cool. Doorknob. What's this do? Ah, I need electricity. Alright, chat. So first we gotta figure out how to turn on the electricity. So that's the front door. Okay. Okay, I see. Haha, bitch! Can't see where he is, chat. so lucky, lucky. I'm so lucky, lucky. I'm so lovely, lovely. I'm so lovely, lovely. You can fool yourself, I promise it will help. Now every single day, I just wanna hear you saying. The light bulb is missing. What the fuck? Chat, like, what do they even want from me? This game is dumb. I will say, for all my gripes and groans about the RE2 make, at least it wasn't this. Wow. Jeez. My mind is blown by how long this dude will spend just checking out one area. I should have brought a snack, chat. Should have brought like a bag of chips or popcorn. Popcorn. Nothing like Doritos on a mic. Hell yeah. Also, welcome in, Pompous. Yeah. Yeah, I'm done with that game. Let's try the next one. If the next one also sucks, we'll just swap to a completely different game. We're Not Alone is an alien-themed game inspired by the trashy horror movies of the 80s, with retro graphics and scary, even comical moments. Just got back from physical therapy. They say I'm cooked. Damn. That sucks. Did they just burn off your nerve endings or something? Got a knot in my back that doesn't release. Oh, that does suck. What do you even do about that? How do you even get, like, how do you get the muscles in your back to clench up permanently? I canceled the laser appointment. F that. Yeah, totally. 100%. Like, who wants to lose their... This is good for an alien one. Who wants to lose their nerve endings? And it's like... It's like, oh, you still feel pain? Well, we can just take out the thing that makes you feel pain. And it's like, well, no, feeling pain is good. And internalized trauma. Yeah. Damn, bro, you gotta clean your bathroom. Wow, that bed looks awful. Damn, crows are ruining my plantation. I need to sort this out. Hey, Jake. Follow me, Jake. I'm gonna go crucify the scarecrow. Gah, 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 gah. I think this should solve the problem with them crows. Well, hopefully... I don't know. Hopefully there's some kind of a solution to that. You can't just get, like, a really good massage to solve that? I guess Jake doesn't get to sleep in the house. Poor Jake. What the fuck? I must be dreaming. Jake, are you okay, buddy? Yeah, that was definitely an alien. Also, does that hat belong to Pompous Ass, or does Pompous own an ass hat? So the biggest guy there was working me. He said he was breaking up the knot, but it would reform within like 30 seconds. You couldn't get him to prescribe you like some Valium or something? I'm Aces Arnie. It's a hat made of ass. It's a hat made of ass. Jake won't come in the house. Pity. Cool. God, what happened to the crows? I'll collect them before they start to rot. Hey, Jake. Jake, don't you want to eat the crows? Don't you want to eat the dead crows, Jake? Nom 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 nom. I guess I'm just carrying around 11 dead crows in my pocket. 12, 13, 14. I do have a muscle relaxant squirreled away somewhere, but honestly, the current level of pain is basically white noise in the context of my typical back pain. Think I got them all. I'll get rid of this. Well, sure, but wouldn't it be like if you took the muscle relaxant regularly enough, wouldn't that get the knot in your back to like unclench permanently? I don't know. That's probably just addicts thinking, but like I don't know. Because like if your back muscle is locked up permanently, like what that would probably mean, what I would assume, with my medical expertise of earning the first aid merit badge in Boy Scouts. They didn't give me very many. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's weird. Like, if I was a doctor, I'd be like, all right, well, we can't work this out normally, so we're just gonna like localized anesthetic or something to get it to unclench, and it's just like, yeah, we're just gonna here's how you inject this, you know, have your wife do it or whatever for a month, and then it should be fine. But I don't know, they've probably got a reason. You only have a first aid badge? I'm gonna watch TV. I hope there's a good movie on. No, I got a few other merit badges. Oh my gosh, they're watching Signs. I have a 9th aid badge. Why won't Jake stop barking? I don't know, it's probably aliens again, dude. What was it, boy? Is there something in the plantation? Got so many AIDS badges, they upgraded to the HIV badge. That's hilarious. They come back? Oh, way down south in the land of cotton, old times there are not forgotten. Look away, look away. Look away, Dixieland. In Dixieland where I was born, early on one frosty morning. Look away, look away, look away. See you later, Pompous. Thanks for dropping by. Hope your back feels better. In Dixieland. And I wish I was in Dixie. Hooray, hooray. In Dixie's land I'll take my stand. Live and die in Dixie. Away. Away, away down south in Dixie. Away, away, away down south in Dixie. Hey, where's my dog? Oh, he's hiding. Okay. Also, apparently I have an upstairs? What is it, Jake? You seen something, boy? What's there? There's an alien on my cross. Okay. Cool. Them aliens can't get me in my house. You're leaving. Jake, where are you? Oh, good, Jake. Wow, game of the freaking year. Oh, well, I can't go to sleep yet. I can give Jake a snack, though. Jake, you want a treat? You want a treat? Who's a good boy, Jake? Who's a good boy? I won't be able to sleep after this. I'll watch TV. Bro, call the police. Shit, this night is gonna be long. We better get up, dude. Probably aliens in my backyard again. No, Jake! I will kill these motherfuckers! With what, dude? Holy shit! Bro's got a Benelli. Alright, chat. Let's go kill some aliens. Ooh. Didn't like that. Die, motherfucker! That's such bullshit. What am I supposed to do about that? Alright, give me my shotgun. No, Jake, I will kill these motherfuckers. You will pay for this, you bastards. Hang on, chat. I'm gonna be right back. Chat, I was taking a phone call. A telephone call. Telephone call. There was this company today that called that I had applied to, and they called in while I was interviewing with a different company. And so I had to set a callback where I was like, hey. I missed their call. So I called them back, and they basically set a callback. They were like, okay, well, we'll figure out who gave you a call and let them know that you called back. It was weird, right? And that was several hours ago, and I had basically given up, but they just called back, and so I was taking that phone call. Sorry about the wait, but me having a job is a little importante. What the fuck? This is bullshit, chat. Alright, let's go. Die, motherfucker, die, motherfucker, die. 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 Oh no, I'm getting abducted. You're joking. There's more? So what, am I just dead? Jake! Jake, you're alive, buddy! Oh, and he gave me the key. Thanks, Jake. You smart boy. One 17935. 17935, chat. One 17935, chat. Kit Kat chat. Jake, let's get out of here. Whew, he almost got my ass. Woohoo! I got out! Yeah, chat, call me crazy, but the Trash Horror Collection really isn't that good. It's not even that fun to stream. The game is so loud, bro. I can't hear you. Yeah, the main menu is really loud. So the main menu is super loud, but then the games are super quiet. It's annoying. House of Rats. Oh god, that's a shame, because Lovecraft's story is so good. You know what, chat? You know what? What if, and hear me out, chat, what if instead of that, what if instead of playing some dog shit adaptation of the House of Rats. What if instead I just read you the House of Rats? I'm going to give you guys some hold music. I'm going to go get my copy of the House of Rats, and I'm just going to read that for you instead of playing that dog shit adaptation. Una momento, por favor. Just don't know. Okay, and this will be probably the first time I've ever turned on my ceiling light in my bedroom since I moved in. Oh, it definitely is. Wow. Chad, this room is so well lit. It's incredible. Incredible. Alright, kitty cat chat. I'm gonna have to do something else here. God damn it. Fucking OBS, you dickholes. Okay. Story. We'll just say Catboy story time. Pretty sure I typed Theo. Category. Chat, I'm officially an e-girl. Cool. Just keep doing that. That never gets infuriating. Alright, and then I need HP Lovecraft ambient music. Oh, wow! Cheap viewers on Streambo.com. Boy, howdy, mister. I sure am glad that you are a first-time chatter here in my chat. This makes me very happy. This does not at all infuriate me or bother me. Get fucked. Alright, chat. Now, I believe it was called The Rats in the Walls. I specifically remember this because this was the first horror story I ever read that like actually scared me. And it was when I was first getting into Lovecraft, page 110. When I was first getting into Lovecraft when I was in high school. I was like a sophomore in high school, and I discovered Lovecraft, and I loved the way he described things. I loved how verbose he was. He had such a great vocabulary. And this was like the first story of his I read, because at this point I had read The Call of Cthulhu, The Dunwich Horror, Color Out of Space, you know, all the classics. And they didn't really do anything for me. Like, they were creepy, but to me they were just like cool stories. This one's called The Rats in the Walls. This is the first ever Lovecraft story that like really scared me. So we're just gonna read you this. Sorry, chat, give me just a quick second. I gotta get into the mood. On 16 July 1923, I moved into Exham Priory after the last workman had finished his labors. The restoration had been a stupendous task, for little had remained of the deserted pile but a shell-like ruin. Yet because it had been the seat of my ancestors, I let no expense deter me. The place had not been inhabited since the reign of James I, when a tragedy of intensely hideous, though largely unexplained, nature had struck down the master, 5 of his children, and several servants, and driven forth under a cloud of suspicion and terror the 3rd son, my lineal progenitor, and the only survivor of the abhorred line. With this sole heir denounced as murderer, the estate had reverted to the crown. With this sole heir denounced as a murderer, the estate had reverted to the crown, nor had the accused man made any attempt to exculpate himself or regain his property. Shaken by some horror greater than that of conscience or the law, and expressing only a frantic wish to exclude the ancient edifice from his sight and memory, Walter de la Poer, 11th Baron of Exham, fled to Virginia, and there founded the family which by the next century had become known as de la Poer. Excuse me, chat, sometimes I'm gonna misspeak. It's not... My eyes and brain aren't dyslexic, but my mouth is. Exham Priory had remained Oh, God, there's a word. There's a sting. Nick when he comes across a multi-syllable word. Exham Priory had remained untenanted through... God damn, throughs and those. Alright, let's try this again. Exham Priory had remained untenanted, though later allotted to the estates of the Norreys family, and much studied because of its peculiarly composite architecture. An architecture involving Gothic towers resting on a Saxon or Romanesque substructure. Fuck you, Lovecraft. Whose foundation in turn was of a still earlier order, or blend of orders. Roman and even Druidic or Native Sumeric, if legends speak truly. This foundation was a singular thing, being merged on one side with solid limestone of the precipice from whose brink the priory overlooked a desolate valley 3 miles west of the village of Anchester. Architects and antiquarians loved to examine the strange relic of forgotten centuries, but the country folk hated it. They had hated it for hundreds of years before, when my ancestors lived there, and they hated it now when the moss and mold of abandonment... with the moss and mold of abandonment on it. I had not been a day in Anchester before I knew I came of an accursed house. And this week, workmen have blown up Exham Priory and are busy obliterating the traces of its foundations. The bare statistics of my ancestry I had always known, together with the fact that my first American forebear had come to the colonies under a strange cloud. Of details, however, I had been kept wholly ignorant through this policy of reticence, always maintained by the de la Poers. Unlike our planter neighbors, Unlike our planter neighbors, we seldom boasted of crusading ancestors or other medieval and Renaissance heroes, nor was any kind of tradition handed down except what may have been recorded in the sealed envelope left before the Civil War by every squire to his eldest son for posthumous opening. The glories we cherished were those archived since the migration, the glories of a proud and honorable, if somewhat reserved and unsocial Virginia line. During the war, our fortunes were extinguished and our whole existence changed by the burning of Carfax, our home on the banks of the James. My grandfather, advanced in years, had perished in that incendiary outrage, and with him the envelope that had bound us all to the past. I can recall that fire today as I saw it at the age of 7, with the Federal soldiers shouting, the women screaming, and that word that I'm not going to say on Twitch, howling and praying. My father was in the army, defending Richmond, and after many formalities, my mother and I were passed through the lines to join them. When the war ended, we all moved north, whence my mother had come, and I grew to manhood, middle age, and the ultimate wealth as a stolid Yankee. Why is is that so loud? As a stolid Yankee. Neither my father nor I ever knew what our hereditary envelope had contained, and as I merged into the grayness of Massachusetts business life, I lost all interest in the mysteries which evidently lurked far back in the family tree. Had I suspected their nature, how gladly I would have left Exham Priory to its moths, bats, and cobwebs. My father died in 1904, but without any message to leave me or to my only child, Alfred, a motherless boy of 10. It was this boy who reserved the order of the family information. For although I could give him only jesting conjectures of the past, he wrote me of some very interesting ancestral legends, when the late war took him to England in 1917 as an aviation officer. Apparently the Delapours had a colorful and perhaps sinister history, for a friend of my son, Captain Edward Norris of the Royal Flying Corps, dwelt near the family seat at Anchester and related some peasant superstitions which few novelists could equal for wildness and incredibility. Norris himself, of course, did not take them so seriously, but they amused my son and made good material for his letters to me. It was this legendary which... Oh my god, who orders a sentence that way? It was this legendary which definitely... I'm gonna try this again, chat. Bear with me, the Catboy is stupid. It was this legendary which definitely turned my attention to my transatlantic heritage, and made me resolve to purchase and restore the family seat which Norris showed to Alfred in its picturesque desertion, and offered to get him at a surprisingly reasonable figure, since his own uncle was the present owner. I bought Exham Priory in 1918, but was almost immediately distracted from my plans of restoration by the return of my son, as a maimed invalid. During the 2 years that he lived, I thought of nothing but his care, having even placed my business under the direction of partners. In 1921, as I found myself bereaved and aimless, a retired manufacturer no longer young, I resolved to divert my remaining years with my new possession. Visiting Anchester in December, I was entertained by Captain Norris, a plump, amiable young man who had thought much of my son, and secured his assistance in gathering plans and anecdotes to guide in the coming restoration. Exham Priory itself I saw without emotion, a jumble of tottering medieval ruins covered with lichens and honeycombed with rooks' nests, perched perilously upon a precipice, and denuded of floors or other interior features, save the stone walls of the separate towers. As I gradually recovered the image of the edifice as it had been when my ancestors left it over 3 centuries before, I began to hire workmen for the reconstruction. In every case, I was forced to go outside the immediate locality, for the Anchester villagers had an almost unbelievable fear and hatred of the place. The sentiment was so great that it was sometimes communicated to the outside laborers, causing numerous desertions, whilst its scope had appeared to include both the priory and its ancient family. My son Gonna have to practice reading more often, chat. I promise I am very well read. I'm just bad at reading out loud. All this in my mind, clear as day. Sending brain to mouth, horrible. My son had told me that he somewhat avoided during visits My son had told me that he was somewhat avoided during his visits because he was a Delapour, and I now found myself subtly ostracized for a like reason until I convinced the peasants how little I knew of my heritage, even though they sullenly disliked me, so that I had to collect most of the village traditions through mediation of Norris. What the people could not forgive, perhaps, was what I had come to restore, a symbol so abhorrent to them. For, rationally or not, they viewed the Exham Priory as nothing less than a haunt of fiends and werewolves. Piecing together the tales which Norris collected for me, and supplementing them with accounts of several savants who had studied the ruins, I deduced that Exham Priory stood on the site of a prehistoric temple, a druidical or anti-druidical thing, which must have been contemporary with Stonehenge. That indescribable rites had been celebrated there, few doubted, and there were unpleasant tales of the transference of these rites into Sibyl worship when the Romans into Sibyl worship which the Romans had introduced. Inscriptions still visible in the sub-cellar bore the unmistakable letters as Div Ops Magna Mat, sign of the Magna Mater, whose dark worship was once again vainly forbidden to Roman citizens. Was once vainly forbidden to Roman citizens. Anchester had been the camp to the 3rd Augustan Legion, as many remains attest, and it was said that the Temple of Sibyl was splendid and thronged with worshippers who performed nameless ceremonies at the bidding of a Phrygian priest. Phrygian? Phrygian. I'm going to say Phrygian. Tales added that the fall of the old religion did not end at the orgies at the temple, but that the priests lived on in their new faith without real change. Likewise was it said that the rites did not vanish with the Roman power, and that certain among the Saxons added to what remained of the temple, and gave it the essential outline it subsequently preserved, making it the center of a cult feared through half the Heptarchy. About 1000 AD, the place had been mentioned in chronicles as being substantial stone priory, housing a strange and powerful monastic order, and surrounded by extensive gardens, which needed no walls to exclude a frightened populace. It was never destroyed by the Danes, though after the Norman conquest, it must have declined tremendously, since there was no impediment when Henry III granted the site to my ancestor Gilbert de la Poer, 1st Baron of Exham in 1261. Of my family before this date there is no evil report, but something strange must have happened then. In one chronicle there is a reference to a de la Poer as cursed of God in 1307, whilst village legendary has nothing but evil and frantic fear to tell of the castle that went up on the foundations of the old temple and priory. The fireside tales were of the most grisly description, all the ghastlier because of their frightened reticence and the cloudy evasiveness. They represented my ancestors as a race of hereditary daemons, because of whom Gilles de Retz and the Marquis de Sade would seem the veriest tyros, and hinted whisperingly at their responsibility for the occasional disappearances of villagers throughout several generations. The worst characters apparently were the barons and their direct heirs at least. Most was whispered about these. If of healthier inclinations, it was said, an heir would early and mysteriously die to make way for a more typical scion. There seemed to be an inner cult in the family, presided over by the head of the house, and sometimes closed except to a few members. Temperament rather than ancestry was evidently the basis of the cult, for it was entered by several who married into the family. Lady Margaret Trevor from Cornwall, wife of Godfrey, the second son of the 5th Baron, became a favourite bane of children all over the countryside, and the daemon heroine of a particularly horrible old ballad not yet extinct near the Welsh border. Preserved in balladry too, though not illustrating the same point, was the hideous tale of Lady Mary de la Poer, who shortly after her marriage to the Earl of Shrewsford was killed by him and his mother, both of the slayers being absolved and blessed by the priest to whom they confessed what they dared not repeat to the world. These myths and ballads, typical as they were of crude superstition, repelled me greatly. Their persistence in their application to so long a line of my ancestors were especially annoying, whilst the imputations of the monstrous habits proved unpleasantly reminiscent of the one known scandal of my immediate forebears. The case of my cousin, young Randolph Delapour of Carfax, who went among the people of color and became a voodoo priest after he returned from the Mexican War. That's... ooh, Lovecraft not beating the allegations with that one, chat. This reminded me of my disturbing cousin who was a little too hip with the urban folks. I was much less disturbed by the vaguer tales of the wails and howlings in the barren, windswept valley beneath the limestone cliff, of the graveyard stenches after the spring rains, of the floundering, squealing white thing on which Sir John Clave's horse had trod one night in a lonely field, and of the servant who had gone mad at what he saw in the priory in the full light of day. These things were hackneyed spectral lore, and I was at the time a pronounced skeptic. The accounts of vanished peasants were less to be dismissed, though not especially significant in the view of medieval custom. Prying curiosity meant death, and more than one severed head had been publicly shown on the bastions, now effaced around Exham Priory. A few of the tales were exceedingly picturesque, and made me wish I had learned more of the comparative mythology in my youth. There was, for instance, the belief that a legion of bat-winged devils kept witches' Sabbath each night at the Priory, a legion whose substance might have explained the disproportionate abundance of coarse vegetables harvested in the vast gardens. And most vivid of all, there was the dramatic epic of the rat. And most vivid of all, there's the dramatic epic of the rats. The scampering army of obscene vermin which had burst forth from the castle 3 months after the tragedy that doomed it to desertion. The lean, filthy, ravenous army which had swept all before it and devoured fowl, cats, dogs, hogs, sheep, and even 2 hapless human beings before its fury was spent. Around that unforgettable rodent army, a whole separate cycle of myths revolves, for it scattered among the village homes and brought curses and horrors in its train. Such was the lore that assailed me as I pushed to completion, with an elderly obstinacy, the work of restoring my ancestral home. It must not be imagined for a moment that these tales formed my principal psychological environment. On the other hand, I was consequently praised and encouraged by Captain Norris and the antiquarians who surrounded and aided me. When the task was done, over 2 years after its commencement, I viewed the great rooms, wainscoted halls, vaulted ceilings, mullioned windows, and broad staircases with a pride which fully compensated for the prodigious expense of the restoration. Good lord, that one sentence is like 3 lines. And it's in like 10-point font, single-spaced. Every attribute of the Middle Ages was cunningly reproduced, and the new parts blended perfectly with the original walls and foundations. The seat of my fathers was complete, and I looked forward to redeeming the last of the local fame of the line which ended in me. I could reside here permanently, and prove that a Delapour, for I had adopted the original spelling of the name, needed not be a fiend. My comfort was perhaps augmented by the fact that, although Exham Priory was medievally fitted, its interior was in truth wholly new and free from old vermin and old ghosts alike. As I have said, I moved in on 16 July 1923. My household consisted of 7 servants and 9 cats, of which latter species I am particularly fond. My eldest cat, I'm not going to say that one because it's named after Lovecraft's cat, was 7 years old and had come with me to my home in Bolton, Massachusetts. The others I had accumulated whilst living with Captain Norris's family during the restoration of the Priory. For 5 days our routine proceeded with the utmost placidity, my time being spent mostly in the codification of old family data. I had now obtained some very circumstantial accounts of the final tragedy and flight of Walter Delacour, which I had conceived to be the probable contents of the hereditary paper lost in the fire at Carfax. It appeared that my ancestor was accused with much reason of having killed all the other members of his household, except 4 servant confederates in their sleep about 2 weeks after a shocking discovery which changed his whole demeanor, but which, except by implication, he disclosed to no one, save perhaps the servants who assisted him and afterwards fled beyond reach. Okay, Lovecraft, listen, buddy, I love you. You're a great writer. You have an incredible way with words. That one paragraph was 1 sentence. This deliberate slaughter, which included a father, 3 brothers, and 2 sisters, was largely condoned by the villagers, but so slackly treated by the law that its perpetrator escaped, honored, unharmed, and undisguised to Virginia, the general whispered sentiment being that he had purged the land of an immemorial curse. What discovery had prompted an act so terrible, I could scarcely even conjecture. Walter Delacour must have known for years the sinister tales about his family, so that this material could have given him no fresh impulse. Had he, then, witnessed some appalling ancient rite, or stumbled upon some frightful and revealing symbol in the priory or its vicinity? He was reputed? He was reputed to have been a shy, gentle youth in England. In Virginia, he seemed not so. Much hard or bitter as harassed and apprehensive. He was spoken of in the diary of another gentleman adventurer, Francis Harley of Bellevue, as a man of unexampled justice, honor, and delicacy. On 22 July occurred the first incident which, though lightly dismissed at the time, takes on a preternatural significance in relation to latter events. It was so simple as to be almost negligible, and could not possibly have been noticed under the circumstances, for it must be recalled that since I was in a building practically fresh and new except for the walls, and surrounded by a well-balanced staff of servitors, apprehension would have been absurd despite the locality. What I afterward remembered is merely this, that my old black cat, whose moods I know so well, was undoubtedly alert and anxious to an extent wholly out of keeping with his natural character. He roved from room to room, restless and disturbed, and sniffed constantly about the walls which formed part of the Gothic structure. I realize how trite this sounds, like the inevitable dog in a ghost story, which always growls before his master sees the sheeted figure, yet I cannot consistently suppress it. The following day a servant complained of the restlessness amongst all the cats in the house. He came to me in my study, a lofty west room on the 2nd story, with groined arches, black oak paneling, and a triple Gothic window overlooking the limestone cliff and desolate valley. And even as he spoke, I saw the jetty form of my old black cat creeping along the west wall and scratching at the new panels which overlaid the ancient stone. I told the man that there must be a singular odor or emanation from the old stonework, imperceptible to human senses but affecting the delicate organs of cats, even through the new woodwork. This I truly believed, and when the fellow suggested that the presence of mice or rats, I mentioned that there have been no rats there for 300 years, and that even the field mice in the surrounding country could hardly be found in these high walls, where they had never been known to stray. That afternoon I called on Captain Norris, and he assured me that it would be quite incredible for field mice to infest the priory in such a sudden and unprecedented fashion. That night, dispensing as usual with a valet, I retired in the West Tower chamber which I had chosen as my own, reached from the study by a stone staircase and short gallery, the former partly ancient, the latter entirely restored. This room was circular, very high, and without wainscoting, being hung with arras I had myself chosen in London. Seeing that my old black cat was with me, I shut the heavy Gothic door and retired to the light of the electric bulbs, which so cleverly counterfeited candles, finally switching off the light and sinking on the carved and canopied four-poster, with the venerable cat in his accustomed place across my feet. I did not draw the curtains, but gazed out at the narrow window which I faced. There was a suspicion of aurora in the sky, and the delicate traceries of the window were pleasantly silhouetted. At some time I must have fallen quietly asleep, for I recall a distinct sense of leaving strange dreams. When the cat started violently from his placid position, I saw him in the faint auroral glow, head strained forward, 4 feet on my ankles and hind feet stretched behind. He was looking intensely at a point on the wall somewhat west of the window, a point which to my eye had nothing to mark it, but toward which all my attention was now directed. As I watched, I knew that my old black cat was not vainly excited. Whether the Aras actually moved, I cannot say. I think it did, very slightly. But what I can swear to is that behind it I heard a low, distinct scurrying as of rats or mice. In a moment the cat had jumped bodily on the screening tapestry, bringing the affected section to the floor with his weight, and exposing a damp ancient wall of stone, patched here and there by the restorers, and devoid of any trace of rodent prowlers. The old black cat raced up and down the floor by his part of the wall, clawing the fallen Aras and seemingly trying to insert a paw between the wall and the oaken floor. He found nothing, and after a time returned wearily to his place across my feet. I had not moved, but I did not sleep again that night. In the morning I questioned all the servants and found that none of them had noticed anything unusual, save that the cook remembered the actions of a cat which had rested on her windowsill. This cat had howled at some unknown hour of the night, awakening the cook in time for her to see him dart purposefully out of the open door and down the stairs. I drowsed away the noontime, and in the afternoon called again on Captain Norris, who became exceedingly interested in what I told him. The odd incidents, so slight, so curious, appealed to his sense of the picturesque, and elicited from him a number of reminiscences of local ghostly lore. We were genuinely perplexed at the presence of rats, and Norris lent me some traps in Paris Green, which I had the servants place in strategic localities when I returned. I retired early, being very sleepy, but was harassed by dreams of the most horrible sort. I seemed to be looking down from an immense height upon a twilit grotto, knee-deep with filth, where a white-bearded Damon swineherd drove about with his staff, a flock of fungus, flabby beasts, whose appearance filled me with unutterable loathing. Then, as the swineherd paused and nodded over his task, a mighty swarm of rats rained down on the stinking abyss, and fell to devouring beasts and man alike. From this terrific vision I was abruptly awakened by the motions of my old black cat, who had been sleeping as usual across my feet. This time I did not have to question the source of his snarls and hisses, and of the fear which made him sink his claws into my ankle, unconscious of their effect, for on every side of the chamber the walls were alive with nauseous sound, the verminous slithering of ravenous, gigantic rats. There was now no aurora to show the state of the Aras, the fallen section of which had been replaced, but I was not too frightened to switch on the light. As the bulbs leapt into radiance, I saw hideous shaking all over the tapestry, causing the somewhat peculiar designs to execute a singular dance of death. This motion disappeared almost at once, and the sound with it. Springing out of bed, I poked at the Aras with the long handle of the warming pan that rested near, and lifted one section to see what lay beneath. There was nothing but the patched stone wall, and even the cat had lost his tense realization of the abnormal presences. When I examined the circular trap that had been placed in the room, I found all the openings sprung, though no trace remained of what had been caught and had escaped. Further sleep was out of the question, so lighting a candle, I opened the door and went out in the gallery towards the stairs to my study, my old black cat following at my heels. Before we had reached the stone steps, however, the cat darted ahead of me and vanished down the ancient flights. As I descended the stairs myself, I became suddenly aware of sounds in the great room below. Sounds of a nature which could not be mistaken. The oak-paneled walls were alive with rats, scampering and milling, whilst my old black cat was racing about with the fury of a baffled hunter. Reaching the bottom, I switched on the light, which did not this time cause the noise to subside. The rats continued their riot, stampeding with such force and distinctness that I could finally assign to their motions a definite direction. These creatures, in numbers apparently inexhaustible, were engaged in one stupendous migration from inconceivable heights to some depth, conceivably or inconceivably below. I now heard steps in the corridor, and in another moment 2 servants pushed open the massive door. They were searching the house for some unknown source of disturbance which had thrown all the cats into a snarling panic and caused them to plunge precipitately down several flights of stairs and squat, yowling before a closed door to the subcellar. I asked them if they had heard the rats, but they replied in the negative, and when I turned to call their attention to the sounds in the panels, I realized that the noise had ceased. With the 2 men, I went down to the door of the subcellar, but found the cats already dispersed. Later I resolved to explore the crypt below, but for the present I merely made a round with the traps. All were sprung, yet were tenantless. Satisfying myself that no one had heard the rats, save the felines and me, I sat in my study till morning, thinking profundly and recalling every scrap of legend I had unearthed concerning the building I inhabited. I slept some in the forenoon, leaning back in the one comfortable library chair which my medieval plan of furnishing could not banish. Later, I telephoned to Captain Norris, who came over and helped me explore the subcellar. Absolutely nothing untoward was found, although we could not repress a thrill at the knowledge that this vault was built by Roman hands. Every low arch and massive pillar was Roman, not the debased Romanesque of the bungling Saxons, but the severe and harmonious classicism of the age of the Caesars. Indeed, the walls abounded with inscriptions familiar to the antiquarians who had repeatedly explored the place. Things like Pi gete prop temp dona and El preg vis pontife Attis. The reference to Attis made me shiver, for I had read Catullus, and knew something of the hideous rites of the Eastern god whose worship was so mixed with that of Cybele. Norris and I, by the light of a lantern, tried to interpret the odd and nearly effaced designs on certain irregularly rectangular blocks of stone, generally held to be altars, but could make nothing of them. We remembered that one pattern, a sort of rayed sun, was held by students to imply a non-Roman origin, suggesting that these altars had merely been adopted by the Roman priests from some older and perhaps aboriginal temple on the same site. On one of these blocks were some brown stains which made me wonder. The largest, in the center of the room, had certain features on the upper surface which indicated its connection with fire, probably burnt offerings. Such were the sights in the crypt before whose door the cats howled, and where Norris and I now determined to pass the night. Not crouches. There's no R in that word. Couches were brought down by the servants, who were told not to mind any nocturnal actions of the cats, and my old black cat was admitted as much for help as for companionship. We decided to keep the great oak door, a modern replica with slits for ventilation, tightly closed. And with this attended to, we retired with lanterns still burning to await whatever might occur. Give me a quick second, chat. The vault was very deep in the foundations of the priory, and undoubtedly far down on the face of the beetling limestone cliff overlooking the waste valley. That it had been the goal of the scuffling and unexplainable rats I could not doubt, though why I could not tell. As we lay there expectantly, I found my vigil occasionally mixed with the half-formed dreams from which the uneasy motions of the cat across my feet would rouse me. These dreams were not wholesome, but horribly like the one I had the night before. I saw again the twilight grotto, and the swineherd with his unmentionable fungus beasts wallowing in filth, and as I looked at these things, they seemed nearer and more distinct. So distinct that I could observe their features. Then I did observe the flabby features of one of them, and awakened with such a scream that my old black cat started up, while Captain Norris, who had not slept, laughed considerably. Norris might have laughed more, or perhaps less, had he known what it was that had made me scream, but I did not remember myself until later. Ultimate horror often paralyzes memory in a merciful way. Norris waked me when the phenomena began. Out of the same frightful dream, I was called by his gentle shaking, and his urging to listen to the cats. Indeed, there was much to listen to, for beyond the closed door, at the head of the stone steps, was the veritable nightmare of feline yelling and clawing, whilst my old cat, unminded of his kindred outside, was running excitedly round the bare stone walls, in which I heard the same babble of scurrying rats that had troubled me the night before. An acute terror now rose within me, for here were anomalies which nothing normal could well explain. These rats, if not the creatures of madness which I had shared with the cats alone, must be burrowing and sliding in Roman walls. I had thought to be solid limestone bricks. Must be burrowing and sliding in Roman walls, I had thought to be solid limestone bricks. Unless, perhaps the action of water, through more than 17 centuries, had eaten winding tunnels which rodent bodies had worn clear and ample. But even so, the spectral horror was no less. For if these were living vermin, why did Norris hear their disgusting commotion? Why did not Norris hear their disgusting commotion? Why did he urge me to watch the old black cat and listen to the cats outside? Why did he guess wildly and vaguely at what could have aroused them? By the time I managed to tell him as rationally as I could what I thought I was hearing, my ears gave me the last fading impression of scurrying, which had retreated still downward, far underneath the deepest of subcellars, till it seemed as if the whole cliff was riddled with questing rats. Norris was not as skeptical as I had anticipated, but instead seemed profoundly moved. He motioned to me to notice that the cats at the door had ceased their clamor, as if giving up the rats for lost, whilst my old black cat had a burst of renewed restlessness and was clawing frantically around the bottom of the large stone altar in the center of the room, which was nearer Norris's couch than mine. My fear of the unknown was at this point very great. Something astounding had occurred, for I saw that Captain Norris, a younger, stouter, and presumably more naturally materialistic man, was affected fully as much as myself. Perhaps because of his lifelong and intimate familiarity with the local legend. We could for the moment do nothing but watch the old black cat as he pawed with decreasing fervor at the base of the altar, occasionally looking up and mewing to me in that persuasive manner which he used when he wished me to perform some favor for him. Alright, quick second here, chat. My fear of the nope, we read that. Some favor for him. Norris now took a lantern close to the altar and examined the place where the old cat was pawing, silently kneeling and scraping away the lichens of the centuries which joined the massive pre-Roman block to the tessellated floor. He did not find anything and was about to abandon his efforts when I noticed a trivial circumstance which made me shudder. even though it implied nothing more than I had already imagined. I told him of it, and we both looked at its almost imperceptible manifestation with the fixedness of fascinated discovery and acknowledgement. It was only this, that the flame of the lantern set down near the altar was slightly but certainly flickering from a draught of air which it had not before received, and which came indubitably from the crevice between the floor and the altar where Norris was scraping away the lichens. Is that... what is that? Oh, goodness gracious, chat. We still got... oh, that's only 2 pages. These are thick pages. Gosh, this is a funny book. You can't tell, chat, because I'm censoring, but this is a funny fucking book. We spent the rest of the night in brilliantly lighted study, nervously discussing what we should do next. The discovery that some vault deeper than the deepest known masonry of the Romans underlay the accursed pile. Some vault unsuspected by the curious antiquarians of 3 centuries would have been sufficient to excite us without any background of the sinister. As it was, the fascination became twofold, and we paused in doubt whether to abandon our search and quit the priory forever in superstitious caution, or to gratify our sense of adventure and brave whatever horrors might await us in the unknown depths. By morning we had compromised and decided to go to London to gather a group of archaeologists and scientific men fit to cope with the mystery. It should be mentioned that before leaving the subcellar, we had vainly tried to move the central altar, which we now recognized as the gate to a new pit of nameless fear. What secret would open the gate wiser men than we would have to find? Oh, chat. I apologize. Please don't hate me. I need to go refill my drink. So we're gonna pause the story there. And my spot in the story, now that I have my drink. Okay. During many days in London, Captain Norris and I presented our facts, conjectures, and legendary anecdotes to 5 eminent authorities. All men who could be trusted to respect any family disclosures with future explorations, which future explorations might develop. We found most of them a little disposed to scoff, but instead... little disposed to scoff, but instead intensely interested and sincerely sympathetic. It is hardly necessary to name them all, but I may say that they included Sir William Brinton, whose excavations in the Troad excited most of the world in their day. As we all took the train to Anchester, I felt myself poised on the brink of frightful revelations, a sensation symbolized by the air of mourning around many Americans at the unexpected death of the president on the other side of the world. On the evening of 7 August, we reached Exham Priory, where the servants assured me that nothing unusual had occurred. The cats, even my old black cat, had been perfectly placid, and not a trap in the house had been sprung. We were to begin exploring on the following day, awaiting which I assigned the well-appointed rooms to all my guests. I myself retired to my own tower chamber with my old black cat across my feet. Sleep came quickly, but the hideous dreams assailed me. There was a vision of a Roman feast like that of Trimalchio, with a horror in a covered platter. Then came that damnable recurrent thing about the swineherd and his filthy drove in the twilit grotto. Yet when I awoke, it was full daylight, with the normal sounds in the house below. The rats, living or spectral, had not troubled me, and my old cat was still quietly asleep. On going down, I found that the same tranquility had prevailed elsewhere, a condition which one of the assembled servants, a fellow named Thornton, devoted to the psychic, rather absurdly laid to the fact that I had now been shown the thing which certain forces had wished to show me. Fucking English. All was now ready, and at 11 a.m., our entire group of 7 men bearing powerful electric searchlights and implements of excavation went down to the subcellar and bolted the door behind us. My old cat was with us, for the investigators found no occasion to despise his excitability, and were indeed anxious that he be present in case of obscure rodent manifestations. We noted the Roman inscriptions on the unknown altar We noted the Roman inscriptions and unknown altar designs only briefly, for 3 of the savants had already seen them and all knew their characteristics. Prime attention was paid to the momentous central altar, and within an hour Sir William Brenton had caused it to tilt backwards, balanced by some unknown species of counterweight. There now revealed such a horror as would have overwhelmed us had we not been prepared. Through a nearly square opening in the tiled floor, sprawled on a flight of stone steps so prodigiously worn that it was little more than an inclined plane at the center, was a ghastly array of human or semi-human bones. Those which retained their calcation as skeletons showed attitudes of panic and fear, and over all were the marks of rodent gnawing. The skulls denoted nothing short of utter idiocy, cretinism, or primitive semi-apedom. Above the hellishly littered steps arced a descending passage, seemingly chiseled from the solid rock and conducting a current of air. This current was not a sudden and noxious rush from a closed vault, but a cool breeze with something of freshness in it. We did not pause long, but shivering began to clear a passage down the steps. It was then that Sir William, examining the hewn walls, made the odd observation that the passage, according to the direction of the strokes, must have been chiseled from beneath. I must be very deliberate now and choose my words. After ploughing down a few steps amidst the gnawed bones, we saw that there was a light ahead. Not any mystic phosphorescence, but a filtered daylight, which could not have come except from unknown fissures in the cliff that overlooked the waste valley. That such fissures had escaped notice from the outside was hardly remarkable, for not only is the valley wholly uninhabited, but the cliff is so high and beetling that only an aeronaut could study its face in detail. A few steps more and our breaths were literally snatched from us by what we saw, so literally that Thornton, a psychic investigator, actually fainted in the arms of the dazed men who stood behind him. Norris, his plump face utterly white and flabby, simply cried out inarticulately, whilst I think that what I did was to grasp or hiss and cover my eyes. The man behind me, the only one in the party older than I, croaked the hackneyed, "My God!" in the most crackered voice I'd ever heard. Of 7 cultivated men, only Sir William Brenton retained his composure, a thing more to his credit because he led the party and must have seen the sight first. Ooh. It was a twilit grotto of enormous height, stretching away farther than an eye could see, a subterraneous world of limitless mystery and horrible suggestion. There were buildings and other architectural remains. In one terrified glance, I saw a weird pattern of tumuli, a savage circle of monoliths and a low-domed Roman ruin, a sprawling Saxon pile, and an early English edifice of wood. But all of these were dwarfed by the ghoulish spectacle presented by the general surface of the ground. For yards about the steps extended an insane tangle of human bones, or bones at least as human as those on the steps. Like a foamy sea, they stretched, some fallen apart, but others wholly or partly articulated as skeletons, these latter invariably in postures of demonic frenzy, either fighting off some menace or clutching other forms with cannibal intent. When Dr. Trask, an anthropologist, stopped to classify the skulls, he found a degraded mixture which utterly baffled him. They were mostly lower than the Piltdown man in the scale of evolution, but in every case definitely human. Many were of higher grade, and a few were the skulls of supremely and sensitively developed types. All of the bones were gnawed, mostly by rats, but somewhat by other of the half-human drove. Mixed with them were many tiny bones of rats, fallen members of the lethal army which had closed the ancient epic. I wonder that any man among us lived and kept his sanity. Through that hideous day of discovery. Not Hoffman, nor Husmans could conceive of a scene more wildly incredible, more frenetically repellent, or more gothically grotesque than the Twilight Grotto through which we seven staggered, each stumbling on revelation after revelation, and trying to keep for the nonce from thinking of the events which must have taken place there 300 or 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 years ago. It was the antechamber of hell, and poor Thornton fainted again when Trask told him of some of the skeleton things must have descended as quadrupeds through the last 20 or more generations. Give me a quick second. Horror piled on horror as we began to intercept the architectural remains. Oh, not intercept. As we began to interpret the architectural remains. The quadruped things, with their occasional recruits from the bipedal class, had been kept in stone pens, out of which they must have broken in their last delirium of hunger or rat fear. There had been great herds of them, evidently fattened on the coarse vegetables whose remains could be found as some sort of poisonous ensilage and at the bottom of the huge stone bins older than Rome. I knew now why my ancestors had such excessive gardens. Would to heaven I could forget. The purpose of the herds I did not have to ask. Okay, we are gonna do that. I've taken off me headphones. Sir William, standing with his searchlight in the Roman ruin, translated aloud the most shocking ritual I have ever known, and told of the diet of the antediluvian cult, to which the priests of Sybil found and mingled with their own. Norris, used as he was to the trenches, could not walk straight when he came out of the English building. It was a butcher shop and kitchen. He had expected that. But it was too much to see familiar English implements in such a place, and to read familiar English graffiti there, some as recent as 1610. I could not go into that building whose daemon activities were stopped only by the dagger of my ancestor Walter de la Poer. What I did venture to enter was the low Saxon building, whose oaken door had fallen, and there I found a terrible row of 10 stone cells with rusty bars. 3 had tenants, all skeletons of high grade. And on the bony forefinger of one, I found the seal ring with my own coat of arms. Sir William found a vault with far older cells below the Roman chapel, but these cells were empty. Below them was a low crypt with cases of formally arranged bones, some of them bearing terrible parallel inscriptions carved in Latin, Greek, and the tongue of Phrygia. The tongue of Phrygia, because we already said Phrygian. Meanwhile, Dr. Trask had opened one of the prehistoric tumuli, and had brought to light skulls which were slightly more human than a gorilla's, and which bore indescribably ideographic carvings. Through all this horror my cat stalked, unperturbed. Once I saw him monstrously perched atop a mountain of bones, and wondered at the secrets that might lie behind his yellow eyes. Having grasped to some slight degree the frightful revelations of this twilight area, an area so hideously foreshadowed by my recurrent dream, we turned to that apparently boundless depth of Midnight Cavern, where no ray of light from the cliff could penetrate. We shall never know what sightless Stygian worlds yawned before the little distance we went, for it was decided that such secrets are not good for mankind. But there was plenty to engross us close at hand, for we had not gone far before the searchlights showed that a cursed infinity of pits in which the rats had feasted, and whose sudden lack of replenishment had driven the ravenous rodent army first to turn on the living herds of starving things, and then to burst forth from the priory in that historic orgy of devastation which the peasants will never forget. God, those carrion black pits of sawed, picked bones and open skulls, those nightmare chasms choked with the... What the fuck did you just write, Lovecraft? Pithecanthropoid. Nightmare chasms choked with the pithecanthropoid, Celtic, Roman, and English bones that they had once been. Others were still bottomless to our searchlights, and peopled by unnameable fancies. What I thought of the hapless rats that stumbled into such traps amidst the blackness of their quests in this grisly Tartarus. Once my foot slipped near a horribly yawning brink, and I had a moment of ecstatic fear. I must have been musing a long time, for I could not see any of the party but plump Captain Norris. Then there came a sound from that inky boundless, farther distance than I thought I knew, and I saw my old black cat dart past me like a winged Egyptian god, straight into the illimitable gulf of the unknown. But I was not far behind, for there was no doubt after another second. It was the eldritch scurrying of those fiend-born rats, always questing for new horrors, and determined to lead me on, even onto those grinning caverns of the Earth's center, where Nyarlathotep, the mad, faceless god, howls blindly in the darkness to the piping of two amorphous idiot flute players. My searchlight expired, but still I ran. I heard voices and yowls and echoes, but above all, there gently rose that impious, insidious scurrying, gently rising as a stiff, bloated corpse gently rises above an oily river that flows under the endless onyx bridges to a black, putrid sea. Something bumped into me, something soft and plumped. It must have been the rats, the vicious, gelatinous, ravenous army that feast on the dead and the living. Why shouldn't the rats eat a Delapour as a Delapour eats forbidden things? The war ate my boy, damn them all, and the Yanks ate Carfax with flames and burnt Grand Spire Delapour, and the secret. No, I tell you, I am not that Damon swineherd in the Twilight Grotto. It was not Edward Norrie's fat face on the flabby fungus thing. Who says I am a Delapour? He lived, but my boy died. Shall a Norris hold the land of a Delapour? It's voodoo, I tell you, that spotted snake. Curse you, Thornton. I'll teach you to faint at what my family do. Splud, thou stinkard. I'll yearn how to gust. Would ye swink me thinkways? Magna mater, atis, diad, alright, made up words. This is what they say I said when they found me in the blackness after 3 hours. Found me crouching in the blackness over the plump, half-eaten body of Captain Norris, with my own cat leaping and tearing at my throat. Now they've blown up Exham Priory, taken my cat from me, and shut me into this barred room at Hanwell with fearful whispers about my hereditary inexperience. Thornton is in the next room, but they prevent me from talking to him. They're trying to suppress most of the facts concerning the Priory. When I speak of poor Norris, they accuse me of this hideous thing, but they must know that I did not do it. They must know it was the rats, the slithering, scurrying rats, whose scampering will never let me sleep. The daemon rats that race behind the padding of the daemon rats that race behind the padding of this room and beckon me down to greater horrors that I have ever known. The rats they can never hear. The rats in the walls. That, chat, is my favorite Lovecraft work. It is such a compelling horror. 22 pages, that, would you believe? No, not even 12, I think. 12 or 11 pages, that was. Can you believe it? A very compelling horror. I don't know that I'd say it's Lovecraft's best work, but it is definitely my favorite. Sorry, chat. I was thinking. It's kind of hard after reading that to go back to a video game or something. Like, that is... Like when you talk about the horror of Lovecraft or the horror of the unknown, something like that, like, people often accuse Lovecraft of being a lazy writer and, you know, just a fearful bigot who's, like, staggering anxiety and racism just made him, like, kind of a bad writer. People who say that are fucking losers, because The Rats in the Walls is some of the best horror writing I've ever written. And I've read all of the classics. I've read Shelley, I've read Poe, I've read all of Lovecraft's works, and I can tell you for a fact, The Rats in the Walls is the best thing. It is the best, most compelling horror I've ever read. The fact that it's this entire narrative, you know, just constantly building this tension, just layer after layer, paragraph after paragraph. It's just painting on this tension and horror, this mounting dread. And then they finally go in and you're hearing about, you know, oh, you know, this was gnawed on by the rats and everything. And then it ends and you realize that it's all the memoirs or the letters of a madman. It's the best thing Lovecraft ever wrote. Maybe not the best thing Lovecraft ever wrote, but it's certainly the best horror he ever wrote. Like, as far as, like, raw scare factor, that one's got it. Now, there's other stuff, like Shadow over Innsmouth is fantastic. Call of Cthulhu is, like, really great. There's one, I can't remember what it's called. But it's like, the whole story is told from the point of view narrative of a World War I U-boat captain, as him and his U-boats get stuck at the bottom of the ocean and they slowly go mad. I'm trying to... Which one is it? I think it's The Temple. Let's see, 49. Yeah, The Temple. Oh, so good. Sorry, chat. I'm... Oh. Oh, that's good. I hope you enjoyed that. Let's see. So let's see here, chat. We're probably not going to go back into Trash Horror Collection because that was there's no following up to what we just read. Especially not by Trash Horror. They can't do it. They don't have it in them, chat. Forgive me, Father. We could play that. Oh, World of Horror. This is a fun one. You know what? We can do this because World of Horror is actually pretty light. So, pop that up and come over here and just call this stream World of Horror. And we'll change category to World of Horror. Chat. Alright, let's get this started. And then I'm going to go turn off my light. Okay. Oh. Welcome to Shiokawa. This update brings World of Horror out of early access. Oh, no way. Oh, here we go. 4 new mysteries. 2 new old gods. Okay. That's better. Jeez. I guess we'll do like this. Okay. Kind of a seaside retro dark. I like that one. Light, LED, Uncanny Black, Neo, Monolith, Cassie, Flesh, Ripper, Archives, Shroud. Alarm! Wood, Honey, Jaguar, Hills, Film, Mythos, Tides, Grimoire, Clean, Shibuya, Seaweed, Moldy Black, Attic, Kinda Black, Old Print. I like this one. This one's easy on the eyes. Deep Gold, Omen, Neon Slasher. Should we do this one, chat? This one's kind of fun. Gothic, ZR, Faraday, Iron Rain, Palm Trees, Blood Dawn, Riverside Incident, Backrooms, Bloodlord. Ooh, this one's clean. Swamp, Snarl, Faded Pumpkin. Haircuts. Taroko, Gardener, Seville, Watercolor, Leatherface, Caution Tape, Cherry Candy, Occulation, Curse Slab, Marsh, Apple Pie, Fish, Copper. Sweet Dreams, Family Prayers, Empty Church. Empty Church? 1990 something. Should we do this one?
don't care for that. I like it when it's more vivid coloring, or clear coloring. So like that, yeah. Let's go all the way back, right? Standard, abyssal, spiral, found for the seaside. We can go retro dark, retro light. There's one. This. Jaguar. You know what, chat? We'll just do Neon Slasher. That's fun, right? Okay. One bit, 2-bit. 2-bit, of course. Continue. Alright, chat. So we've done this before. Capital of Japan. Halloween. I want to do Halloween. This option will start a new playthrough, randomly selecting character, old god, background, and more. Choose your own character, background, and other playthrough specifics. Should we do that, chat? Sure. One of the core ideas behind World of Horror is modularity, allowing you to mix and match various card packs with different content. Simply select the card packs you want to be included and continue by pressing the arrow at the bottom. World of Horror base game, World of Horror Octopus. Oh, I have to unlock these. No. Well, then... Can I not go back? One last thing. A tall man left a suitcase for you this morning. He said you would know the password. I wonder what that can mean. City of Shiokawa, Japan, 1980-something. Something strange is happening in our town. Robed figures can be seen gathering in the woods at night. People are going missing. Disgusting creatures are terrorizing the seaside. The rapid technological processes of the modern era brings comfort, but also new, unknown threats. Old gods, malicious eldritch beings who ruled the earth eons ago, are awakening as reality starts to crumble. Armed with clues, spells, and your dwindling sanity, you'll investigate mysteries across the city and in realms beyond. The world's at hand, and you finally arrived in Dune City. Name, Pre-Minami, 20, female. Are the ghosts following her in any way that you can... Oh, I can choose my character.
No.
Swim team captain. Yakuza driver. Hey, he's 24. Starts with cigarettes. No speed is too fast. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. The government won't sweep this one. That sounds fun. Class of 1980, the game. Okay. Classic mode. Old gods are awakening. Your only chance of survival is solving 5 different mysteries. The end of the world is at hand. Somewhere, a group of people gathers, trying to awaken their master. Select the old god to view them, and select them again to confirm your choice. Kathak Atsuro, the spider god. The terrible spider god, Kathak Atsuro, is once again awakening from its slumber. Blinded by its impossible to satisfy hunger, it has started to tear down the walls of its cocoon prison. You can't run from combat. Itotu, the devouring fire. This supposedly cause of the destruction of Alexandria, a perfect black marble statue, has been recently discovered and is currently waiting in the Museum of 000 for its long-awaited premiere. Entropy, both your damage and your enemies, is increased. Bad God favors astronomers and magicians, granting them its gift of power. Cast these spells costing reason, increasing doom instead. Banished to the other dimension, Guizo has found a way to use mirrors to ensnare and teleport its prey straight through the reflective glass. The glimpse behind your reflections are just the beginning of the moment. Resting increases doom penalty. I guess I'd rather just not be able to run into combat. The ominous lighthouse has been closed down for longer than you can remember. You need 5 keys. Check your mailbox, it's empty. You're not currently investigating any weird mysteries. Recent newspaper clippings and notes collected in the next room should point you in the right direction. Chat, maybe I should just call it here. Kind of hard to top Lovecraft, you know? I guess we will. Chat, we're actually just going to call the stream there. Hope you aren't too disappointed in me. I will talk to you all later. Have a good night.